Happy 21st birthday to Disney California Adventure Theme Park. The Disneyland Resort's second gate opened officially on February 8th, 2001. Now, California Adventure isn't just the name of the theme park. I think it's a pretty good description of the entire process that Disney went through to get this theme park built. Let's take a quick look at the history of how Disney California Adventure came to be. The story begins with Walt Disney himself, specifically with Walt running out of money. It's well known at this point that Walt Disney had to borrow every dime he could get a hold of in order to get the Disneyland park built back in 1955. In fact, got to the point where he couldn't afford to build a hotel next to the park, but he really wanted a hotel there because at this time, Disneyland and Anaheim were out in the middle of nowhere. Harrison Buzz Price, the man who helped pick the site for Disneyland, did a fabulous job of anticipating where the growth in Southern California would be over the next half century. It's just that, the growth wasn't there yet, which is one of the reasons why Walt could afford to buy all of that property down in Anaheim. But at that point, it's in the middle of nowhere. He wanted a hotel so people would have a place to stay if they came down for a long day at the park. Didn't have the money to build it, so he called up his friend Jack Rather and said, hey, will you build a hotel for me? Licensed him the name Disneyland Hotel, and that was the creation of the Disneyland Hotel. Now, as Disneyland became successful, Walt made a ton of money, Disney made a ton of money. They wanted to get a hold of that hotel, and they tried for years to buy it. And the Rather Corporation just said, nope, it's ours. We're going to hold on to that. It wasn't until the 1980s that Disney, under Michael Eisner, was able to get a hold not just of the hotel, but of all the assets held by the Rather Corporation, which included a license to the Queen Mary down in Long Beach. So if you visited Disneyland like around 1990 or so, you might have been handed a little slip pitching you on, heading down to Long Beach and going through the Queen Mary and the Spruce Goose, that old Howard Hughes massive airplane that was down there in a hangar that's now the cruise terminal at Long Beach. So what does this have to do with California Adventure? Well, easy. Back in the 1980s, the then president of the Disneyland Resort, Jack Lindquist, an absolute legend, Hall of Famer in the theme park industry, he was saying, we need a second gate here. He saw how successful Walt Disney World had been with Epcot, how the plans were moving forward for what was then Disney MGM Studios. He was saying, hey, Disneyland needs to be a multi-gate resort too. We need to get a second gate in here. And one of the obvious first solutions was, hey, we've got this property down in Long Beach around the Queen Mary and the Spruce Goose. Why don't we create a theme park down there? And they came up with plans for what was then called Port Disney, which was to be this theme park around this big ocean liner kind of themed to the sea. You had your Disneyland, and this was kind of the DisneySea. Well, some people in Anaheim really didn't like that idea. People in Anaheim wanted Disneyland to build its second gate there. Wasn't much space. Really, there was the parking lot, but where are you going to put all the cars? Disney owned some extra property around there. And, well, what happened was that there kind of ended up being a little bit of a political battle going on between including Disney, Long Beach, and Anaheim to see who would get the second gate for the Disneyland Resort. Did Disneyland pit two cities against each other trying to get the best deal? Maybe. But the result of this was an agreement with the city of Anaheim that led to the creation of what we now know as the Anaheim Resort, and an agreement to build a second gate on site there. So eventually Disney got rid of the licensing for the Queen Mary, and things have not gone so well for the Queen Mary ever since. Eventually, the company that did have that, after it changed hands several times, declared bankruptcy. They exited the deal. The city of Long Beach is now trying to figure out how to keep that thing literally and figuratively afloat. And they're approving a whole bunch of money to try and get that restored. But that's no longer really part of the history of the Walt Disney Company. What is that second gate in Anaheim. And the original proposal for that was, well, Disney World had Epcot. Maybe we should have a West Coast version of Epcot next to Disneyland. So the idea was to call it Westcot. And it would be a West Coast Epcot Greatly scaled down, a lot of indoor pavilions, but and kind of a gold maybe a geodesic dome, not a full geosphere. But it would be next to Disneyland on the side of what is now Disney California Adventure and what was then the parking lot. Those plans lasted till about the mid-1990s after Disneyland Paris opened, then known as Euro Disneyland, and didn't do so well. Disney was also committed to getting Animal Kingdom built in Florida, and Westcot just looked way too expensive for what Disney thought their theme parks were bringing in at the time. So Westcot got shelved. But they still wanted that second gate. In fact, they were kind of committed to doing a second gate based on, Anaheim and the deal they'd made, which resulted in, if you go through the area around the Disneyland Resort, you see all of the hotels had very standardized signage. A lot of the visual clutter that had been around in Anaheim before the Anaheim Resort agreement was all taken down as part of the condition of the deal to get Disneyland to build that second gate. They really wanted to clean up all of the area, make it much more visually attractive, help everybody by creating a more cohesive, more attractive resort for people. But they needed that second gate. So what to do if you're not going to do Westcot? There was a brainstorming session, and at one point, the idea came up, all these people we're trying to get here are coming to visit California. What if we just made California the theme of the second gate? And that's how Disney California Adventure was born. And Disney went ahead and built it. It opened in 2001, and it bombed. It was the first real bomb for a Disney theme park. People just didn't show up on opening date. It was criticized for mediocre finishes, uninspired attractions, way too much of an emphasis on shops rather than the magic that you could feel walking to Disneyland across the way. So quickly, a whole bunch of new attractions were ordered up. A Bug's Land to give something for kids and families to do. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror was ordered up to be built there. A scaled down version, well, not really scaled down, but a different version than what fans were used to at the hit in Orlando. It would only have one series of drop shafts rather than two, so there wasn't the fourth dimension seam, but they did some different and interesting things with it, which were later duplicated for the Tower of Terror attraction at Walt Disney Studios Park, the second gate for Disneyland Paris. And then I think the big one that really was a huge hit was the Aladdin show that they put into the theater in Hollywoodland. That carried them for a little while until Michael Eisner left the company. Bob Iger came in and took a look at California Adventure and says, hey, we really need to upgrade this entire thing. And that was the beginning of the plan, announced in 2007 for what became the 2012 overhaul of what was then Disney's California Adventure into just Disney California Adventure, losing the possessive there. And that's where we got Buena Vista Street. That's where we got the new entrance to the park. The old California letters were sent to Cal Expo, kind of the California State Fairgrounds up in Sacramento. So if you've ever wondered what happened to those, head up to Sacramento. You can still get your picture taken with them. But you had that new entrance, which was based on the Pan Pacific Auditorium, which is better known to people as kind of the entrance of Disney's Hollywood Studios from Florida. But that was the Pan Pacific Auditorium from California, which had burned down around the time that Hollywood Studios opened in Florida in the late 1980s. You got Buena Vista Street, like I was saying, that was kind of the idea of this is what Southern California looked like when Walt arrived in the 1920s. And then the really big one, Cars Land, which was a huge hit and continues to be the highest rate, with Radiator Springs Racers, highest rated attraction in Disney California Adventure today. The one big hit that the park had at its opening was Soarin' over California, which made its way to the Walt Disney World Resort as Soarin'. Today it's been replaced by Soarin' Around the World, but every now and then, on a couple of occasions, they've brought back Soarin' over California. And I know a lot of fans would like to see Disney just make Soarin' over California permanent at Disney California Adventure and let the other parks around the world, Disney World and Shanghai Disney and the others that have Soarin', let them have Soarin' around the world. But that's how we got to Disney California Adventure today. It really was a California adventure that involved not just Disney and the city of Anaheim, but the city of Long Beach, the Queen Mary. And whatever happened to those plans for Port Disney? Well, Tokyo bought them. When Tokyo wanted a second gate, they initially looked at the plans for a studio theme park, like was going in at Disneyland Paris, and they said, that looks kind of cheap. We don't want that. You got anything else? So my Imagineer said, well, you know, there's this Port Disney idea that we had for Long Beach, and the Oriental Land Company, which owns the Tokyo Disney Resort under license from the Walt Disney Company, said, that looks great. Let's do that. And so Tokyo DisneySea was born. And what for many years has won our Best Theme Park Award on Theme Park Insider. You know, I think it's up there with Islands of Adventure for winning the most times. But what many people consider the most beautiful theme park in the world, the best theme park in the world, could have been in Long Beach. And instead of us getting California Adventure in Anaheim, I don't know that Disney would have invested the reported $5 billion that Oriental Land ended up spending on Tokyo DisneySea. But as somebody who absolutely adores Tokyo DisneySea, it kind of hurts to think that that could have been as close to me here in Los Angeles as a ride down to Long Beach as opposed to a flight over to Tokyo. So I guess all's well that ends well. The plans for Port Disney never went away. They just became Tokyo DisneySea. Disneyland fans got their second gate with Disney California Adventure, which has been greatly improved over the years and now is a wildly popular park with many people, including many fans who actually kind of prefer it to Disneyland. They just kind of like the vibe that's over there. You gotta love the lobster nachos at the Lamplight Lounge, the food that's at the Carthay Circle. World of Color is coming back. A lot of people love that show. So it looks like it's going to be a very happy year for Disney California this year as it celebrates its 21st birthday, starting on February 8th. So thanks for listening to this little history of Disney California Adventure. I hope you enjoy following along with us as we keep bringing you the theme park news, commentary, and occasionally even history here on themeparkinsider.com. Thanks again.